President Obama once remarked that racism is in our DNA. This was during one of the many racial flare-ups inspired by police shootings of black suspects. He was slammed by people who thought he meant that America has racism in its DNA because of the legacy of slavery. I think he meant that humans have that built into us. But he was still wrong. Our roots go way back on this planet. We have been fully human for at least 50,000 years, and human prototypes were running around 2 million years ago. Until maybe 12,000 years ago, we were all hunter-gatherers out in the wild. And knowing who was with our tribe and who was potentially against our tribe was just about the most important information we could have. Those who were not suspicious were very likely to get killed. The cautious types lived longer, produced more offspring, and that tendency was passed down through our genes. We are definitely hardwired to be suspicious, but not necessarily of people with different colored skin. We are wired to be suspicious about the other, regardless of color. It's actually unusual that this natural distrust of strangers would have a racial component. I mean, how often would it happen that a tribe close by enough to be a threat would be of a different race? That couldn't happen before long-distance travel. When Genghis Khan was conquering half of the known world, he was mostly killing people who looked like him. His horde had wiped out 20 million people before they ever met a Persian or Caucasian, and killed them. The Hutus who annihilated the Tutsis in Rwanda didn't do it because of color. Neither the Jewish or Armenian Holocaust was driven by race. Otherness is what we're talking about. The safety of my group is threatened by your group if you think and act differently. If I am confused by your customs and can't understand what you're saying to one another, I'd be suicidal to assume that your intentions are peaceful. On the other hand, if you seem to be doing just about the same thing my tribe is doing, and you're smiling and seem friendly, I'd be foolish not to recognize you as a potential ally. They say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Now, why do you think they say that? Because it's all about behavior. This morning when I was loading tools into my truck, I heard the neighbors doing the same thing across the fence. They were speaking softly in Spanish, but I recognized their actions as familiar and non-threatening. Not only are we in the same tribe, but I'm proud to claim them. That I'm Anglo and they're Hispanic isn't an issue. But the 4 guys with gang tattoos I saw in the gas station a few days ago were threatening. They were Hispanic too, but that is not what was scary about them. We have an unusual problem in this country. At one time in our history, people of my color enslaved people with dark skin. A lot of white people died to preserve that, and a lot of white people died to end it. But because the enslaved group was a different color than the enslaving group, it's easy to confuse what that was all about. If it had happened that the people with muskets and iron chains and sailing ships had been black, and there had been a large pool of defenseless whites, the slaves would have looked like me. Color wasn't the deciding factor. Technological and cultural development was, and opportunity. A few weeks ago, I pulled into a 7-Eleven for a big gulp just as a guy in an HVAC truck pulled in. I held the door for my fellow tradesman, and we chatted while we filled our cups. That he was black and I was white was no barrier at all. We are from the same tribe. We share the culture of hard, sweaty work on a hot day. I know for certain that he sees a lot of things exactly the way I do. There was a white guy there too. He was wearing a suit and driving an Audi. Now, what would I have said to him? Hey, buddy, how's your whiteness doing? If otherness happens to coincide with color, you see what we have come to call racism. But it's not really even a thing, let alone the key thing. And the answer to the problem is simple. One culture for all, one set of laws, one set of standards. Ignore a person's color altogether and focus on what kind of person he or she is. And that's what most of us have been trying to do. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and then click the little bell to get notifications.